Hello and welcome to Algebra 2. Today is Monday, September 28th, and our topic for the day is graphing from factored form. Okay, we are going to dive right into our first example. We're going to utilize what we learned in last Thursday's lesson about degrees, leading coefficients, and end behavior. Okay, so let's look at this guy. First off, he's definitely in factored form. My leading coefficient in factored form is just the number up front here. I don't see a number, so that's an assumed 1, or -1 in this case. To get our degree, we're going to write in the divisible exponents of 1. Since it's in factored form, we're going to add our exponents. And we get 4, which is even. And this one was negative. For leading coefficient, we care if it's positive or negative. For degree, we care if it's even or odd. So even negative takes this shape. So we already know on our graph, all the way to the left it's going down, and all the way to the right it's going down. Let's look at Y-intercept now. We have a Y-intercept when x equals 0. So we have a Y-intercept at f of 0. So I'm going to plug in zeros for my x's. -0, 0 plus 5 squared, 0 plus 3. So -0 is still 0, 5 squared, 3. Well, there's a 0 out front, and 0 times anything is 0, so our y-intercept is just 0. Okay, this word here, multiplicity, means how many times does it appear, which is basically the same thing as what is its power. So this has a multiplicity of 1, this has a multiplicity of 2 because there are 2 copies of it, and this has a multiplicity of 1. So the significance of multiplicity is that if it is an even exponent, the curve will bounce off the graph at that point. It'll look something like this. It'll bounce off and keep going. If it is an odd exponent, odd exponent, it will cross through that point on the graph. So it'll look something like this. Just crosses straight through. Okay. We're going to use this table here to identify all our factors, their roots, multiplicities, and whether they bounce across. Okay, root, remember, is another word for x-intercept. So the solution to the factor is just the x-intercept. Okay, our first factor is just x. We set it equal to 0, and it equals 0. Looking back up here, remember multiplicity is the same as exponent. As an exponent multiplies how many times it occurs, right? So for example, over here, if I have x plus 5 cubed, that means x plus 5 times x plus 5 times x plus 5. So we have 3 multiples of x plus 5 in that case, for example. This has a multiplicity of 1, which is odd, meaning it will cross through at that point. Our next factor is that x plus 5. We set it equal to 0, and we get -5. Its multiplicity in the problem is 2, which is even, meaning it will bounce. Our last factor is x plus 3. If we set that equal to 0, we get -3. It had a multiplicity of 1, which is odd, so it will cross through. And we only have 3 factors in this case, so we don't need our bottom row here. Great. Pause and rewind whenever you need to, guys. Okay, now we're going to sketch a graph. We're just going to sketch this graph by hand. Okay, we're going to go in and label some things first. I know that all the way to the left, it's going down. All the way to the right, it's going down. I know that we have an intercept at 0, at -5, and at -3. So we're going to fill in our intercepts first. Okay, we're set up and ready to graph. There is a fair amount of creative interpretation here, right? I know that I'm heading up towards 5 from this arrow. I can go up like this. Some people might do one of these. Some people might do one of those. Those are all correct. We are mainly concerned about the end behaviors here, about the points themselves, these x-intercepts, and whether you're bouncing or crossing. So what I'm saying here is don't get fixated on how should you get from one point to another. There is some artistic liberty to have there. So red, green, and blue are all good lines because they all go towards that -5. Okay, so at -5, I need to bounce off. So I go up towards -5, I bounce off, and now I'm going back down. I know I need to hit -3 next. The only way is to turn back around and come up. And -3 is a cross through. I need to go to 0. The only way to get there is to turn around. 0 is a cross. And then I meet my end behavior there. And that's it. That is it for this example. Okay, we're going to do one more, and I'm going to show you a different and really a more efficient way to organize your work. So make sure you pause and write the original problem here. Okay, we're going to write the x-intercept under each factor. So that -3 doesn't have an x, nothing happens. So under 4, I've got x equals 4. Its multiplicity is 2, which is even, so it's a bounce. Under 3, I've got x equals -3. Its multiplicity, its multiplicity is 4, which is even, so it's also a bounce. And then lastly, I've got x equals -4, multiplicity 5, which is odd, so this is a cross. So these are our 3 x-intercepts. These are all x-intercepts. Okay, let's do our leading coefficient. Is that -3, negative, and then our degree is the sum of the exponents. 2 and 4 and 5 is 11, which is odd. So I'm interested in the shape that is negative odd. That looks like this. You'll eventually want to have the 4 shapes memorized. Remember, there's only 4 cases: positive, negative, even, odd. Okay, I need my y-intercept now. This y-intercept is going to be a little more involved. So I'm still going to plug in 0 for x. So I've got -3, doesn't change. 0 minus 4 squared. 0 plus 3 to the 4th. And 0 plus 4 to the 5th. We're going to simplify. -3, -4 squared. 3 to the 4th. 4 to the 5th. Okay. -3, this is positive 16. We're going to pause and use a calculator here. This is 81. and this is 1024. We multiply them all together, and we get quite a large number, 393,216. Now, it would be insane to count 300,000 tick marks on your y-axis. So, we're ready to graph now. Here's how we handle a large number like this. We're going to draw our axes. We know it's negative, so it must be below the x-axis. So we're going to mark it right here, and then as long as you write in the number, all is good. So this is an accurate y-intercept. Now I'm going to go fill in my x-intercepts. 4, -3, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I put that at -5 and I meant -4. -4, -3, 4. Let's double check. Great. On the left side, I'm going up. Remember, we're getting this information from here. And on the right side, I'm going down. Okay, so I'm going to start heading towards -4. Is that a bounce or a cross? It's a cross, so I cross through. I need to turn around, head towards -3. That's a bounce, so I come back down. We know we need to hit this y-intercept. Now I'm headed back up towards +4, which is a bounce, which means I turn back around when I hit it, and then I end up at my end behavior there. So this is all done now. That is all for today, guys. Thanks.